so to speak. They're filing for what they intend to cover during the impeachment trial, and President Trump's lawyers have responded accordingly. So we're going to talk about that because the Democrats are making a case against Citizen Trump, and we'll get into the specifics of that. And then hopefully we'll have time to get into one of my growing heroes, and I am so proud to call Florida Governor Ron DeSantis my governor. I'll put our governor up. I think he's the best governor in the United States of America right now, and he is taking on big tech in a big way, and we'll get into that. But before we go any further, we got to talk about our sponsors. Big Daddy Unlimited, BDU. Ladies and gentlemen, like I tell you on a daily basis, not everyone can be a fighter, but everyone can support those of us in the fight. And Big Daddy Unlimited is in the fight and supporting this fighter, John Martin, on John Martin Talks, and I greatly appreciate it. They are your Second Amendment headquarters. To find our sponsors, in this case, Big Daddy Unlimited, look at the video, above the video, no matter whether you're watching it live this morning and on Facebook. Good morning, howdy, how are you guys? Or you're watching it, a taped version of it at a later time. Look above the video, scroll down on that show description, and you'll see a link to Big Daddy Unlimited, Second Amendment headquarters, where you will get factory direct pricing on guns and ammunition. Yeah, that's right. Factory direct pricing, guns, ammunition, all things Second Amendment, including tactical gear, thousands of items, survival type stuff, all kind of things that have any connection to Second Amendment. You'll find it there, as well as they are, as I say, your Second Amendment headquarters, because Big Daddy Unlimited is now defending your Second Amendment rights on a daily basis. And believe me, they are under fire. So check them out. We also have patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose, patriotthreads.org. Use the promo code JMT, John Martin Talks, but just the initials, JMT. You get 20% off, and they have all kinds of t-shirts, specialty type items that have a patriotic theme to them. They can help you with charity events. Go there. It explains it all. Check it out, patriotthreads.org, JMT, 20% off promo code. Recoil TV, ladies and gentlemen. Recoil TV, we're also working with them now. We have a channel on their channel. We have our own YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. Spell it all the way out. Check it out. By the way, I'm still in what you call Facebook jail, so I can see your responses on Facebook. I cannot answer them. I cannot even like them. I can't even wish you happy birthday on Facebook. But luckily, we're still able to get the show across. So if you want to make a comment that I can respond to, go to our YouTube channel, and I will do my best to respond to it. John Martin Talks. Check it out. But Recoil TV on YouTube, check them out. I'm going to talk more about them right now. Due to the move by big tech to deplatform conservative free speech, we'll be moving John Martin Talks to a new secure platform so you can continue to watch our broadcast. Please download the Recoil TV app found in the same link I was telling you about above the video. It's available on Apple Store and Google Play Store. Recoil TV is all about the Second Amendment as well. They do videos on new products, old products, anything to do with how to use firearms, ammunition, tactical gear. They're the go-to place. They also have a Recoil magazine as well. Check it out. But we're determined to be your voice of freedom here, and we're going to stay in the public square. They're going to have to run us out on a rail, ladies and gentlemen. But one place that our show is archived that you can always go to is our www, write this down, www.johnmartintalks.tv. You can always catch our show there. Not live at the moment. We're working on that, but you can get it archived on a daily basis. All right, so let's get into, gotta adjust these old headphones here a minute. Tape came out. I get taped up sometime and keep these headphones from pulling, but apparently it came loose. Impeachment case, this is a New York Times article. Impeachment case argues Trump was singularly responsible for Capitol riot. So the impeachment trial is about to happen. Right now it's projected to start on Tuesday. And as I said, the House managers have laid out their case now. Let's get into it. The House impeachment managers on Tuesday laid out their case against Donald J. Trump, asserting that he was singularly responsible for the deadly assault on Capitol last month and must be convicted and barred from holding public office. So I like how the New York Times here says right off the bat, the case against Donald J. Trump. Notice they don't say President Donald Trump. Throughout this article, and I've started noticing this pattern, they rarely even refer to former President Trump. It's like, Donald Trump, Mr. Trump, that kind of thing. They don't want to give him any acknowledgement that he once was president of the United States, even though it was only a few weeks ago that he left office. And that is for a reason. They're trying to downplay. They want to ghost Donald Trump, man. They don't want him to be a part of it. Like they want to Photoshop, you got that family album picture and you want to get rid of Uncle Joe, so to speak, or cousin, in this case, Donald Trump. You just kind of either tear him out or Photoshop him out. That's basically what the mainstream media and Republicans as well and Democrats are trying to do. They're trying to ghost Donald Trump. And they specifically don't want to talk about in this article, don't want to refer to him even as impeaching President Trump. And really, if you think about it, that's very, very important because now they're impeaching Citizen Trump, which is totally unconstitutional. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. In an 80-page brief filed on Tuesday, the managers outlined the arguments they plan to make when the Senate opens Mr. Trump's trial next week, contending that the former president, that's about as far as he'll go, whipped his supporters into a frenzy as part of a concerted campaign to cling to power. Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, the attack on the Capitol, whatever you want to label it, the breach, the insurrection, the frenzy they're talking about here, the attack on the Capitol began before Donald Trump finished his speech. So there's no way that he incited it. Plus, he simply said that we need to go down there and peacefully and patriotically protest, right? And I want to say something right now that might be a bit controversial, and I don't mean to, I'm a big fan of the men and women in blue, the thin blue line. And I'm not opposed to the laying in state or lying in state, however you phrase it, of the police officer, the Capitol police officer at the Capitol Rotunda that was killed during the assault on the Capitol, however you want to label it. I'm not opposed to him being there, but make no mistake about this, ladies and gentlemen. Him lying in state is purely political. It is a way to keep the insurrection, Donald Trump's involved. Trust me on this. They're not doing it out of respect for that officer. And as I say, I have no issue with it. I have nothing but total respect and sympathy for our men and women in blue, and probably ought to have more of them lying in state there. But it's interesting that, police officers that were killed in these riots, like the ex-police officer in Kansas City that was a hero, that literally was face shown on Facebook bleeding out, so to speak. What do you think would have happened if Donald Trump, because he had his wife speak at the convention, what if Donald Trump had requested somehow, I don't know that the president has that authority, that gentleman lie in state? I guarantee you the media would have just been all over it, and the Democrats would have essentially said it is all political theater. But yet what is happening today in the Capitol, trust me, it is all political theater. And I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I do know what time it is, and I do know it has nothing to do with respect to that fallen officer. I can tell you that. But spinning a vivid narrative of a harrowing day, talking about January 6th, when lawmakers were forced to flee. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, my old headphones are tugging on me pretty hard. I got to fix them. Give me a moment. The dangers of live TV pulling out of my ear. Let's see if I can get that right. All right, hopefully I got it right. Spinning a vivid narrative of a harrowing day when lawmakers were forced to flee as violent pro-Trump mob breached the Capitol. And we talked about yesterday that there's been some investigation, even by CNN, which is a bit shocking. Check out our podcast from yesterday. You can do that by going to our YouTube channel. John Martin Talks is a great way to do it. JohnMartinTalks.tv also. And we're still being archived at America's Voice News Network, and we're glad to be on there. We're not live right now, but you can go on their sites and click on the show tab, and you can see John Martin Talks, and they're archived there, hopefully on a daily basis. America's Voice News. You can download a free app on your Android, your iPhone. They're on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Channel 219, Dish Network, and the Pluto channel. So check that out. But in our podcast yesterday, we talked about how there's been some investigation of like 180 people that were arrested for breaching the Capitol. And there's a pretty significant portion of them that did not vote in 2020. It's hard for me, as I said yesterday, and we got in depth on it yesterday, that it's hard for me to believe that someone could be a supporter of Donald Trump and actually not vote in 2020. It's kind of interesting. And on a side note, I just heard this coming in this morning. The Atlanta Constitutional Journal has published a report about the Georgia Senate runoff elections that the Democrats won. And they've put out that 750,000 people that voted in the general election did not vote in the runoff. Now, it's not all Trump supporters, but a good chunk of them were, because a good chunk of that 750,000, you can look at the article yourself, Atlanta Constitutional Journal, were white and rural voters. They didn't vote. So I think it's safe to assume that a majority of that white rural voters were probably Trump supporters. For whatever reason, they didn't turn out to vote. Now, you can talk about election mod. We don't say the F word here on John Martin Talks. We have to be careful now because we're not allowed to say the F word, so we say mod. You can say there was election mod in Georgia, and I don't have any doubt that there wasn't. But when 750,000 people, the majority of them, I would speculate, Trump supporters, based on the demographics I just gave you, didn't show up to vote, then, they took Georgia, as Schumer said, and now they're going to change America. But spending a vivid initiative of a harrowing day when lawmakers were forced to flee as violent pro-Trump mob breached the Capitol, prosecutors also reached back centuries to, this is the House members, right, bolster their case, invoking George Washington. So they want to eliminate, let me get this straight. The Democrats want to take down the statues of George Washington. We talked about this last week. Check out our podcast on this as well. Out in in California, in San Francisco, they're stripping George Washington's name off of schools out there. But now they want to invoke this dude, George Washington, probably the greatest founding father that is. If there was one single person that deserves credit for a United States of America, and I'm not saying one single person, but if there were one, it would be George Washington. And they're quoting him out of the Constitutional Convention. So I like how they say a vivid narrative, because that's what this really is. It's a show trial. It is not based on anything. I mean, the term you always used to hear when Donald Trump, and God, I miss that guy already, man. Yeah, I miss him. I saw a show last night where they had his son Eric on, and he asked, "Are people going to miss President Trump pretty quick?" And I can tell you he's right, because I missed him the day he left, let alone now. But this narrative, because it's a show trial they're about to happen, it's all about the narrative. But when Donald Trump would speak, they would also, like I've said before, if he said, "Well, I predict that the sun's coming up tomorrow," they'd say, "without evidence." You never hear that when the Democrats spewing all their ridiculous, as President Trump says, BS. They never talk about without evidence. But they being the House of Representatives, voted to impeach the president at that time, now he's Citizen Trump, with no testimony whatsoever given, no evidence at all presented. In fact, Congressman Mast, a great congressman from the state of Florida, actually asked that question during those proceedings and was met with crickets, man. Crickets. They had no evidence. They didn't question anyone who actually breached the Capitol as to what their motivation was, yet they are impeaching Citizen Trump now for it. It is absolutely crazy. The framers of the Constitution feared a president who would corrupt his office, that's what the article's saying, by sparing no efforts or means whatever to get himself reelected, wrote the 9 House Democrats. This is the led by their Jamie Raskin, man. Keep in mind, you talk about like insurrection and foreign interference and all that kind of stuff and enemies of the state. One of the House managers is none other than the dude from California, man, that is sleeping, literally sleeping with the enemy, with a Chinese spy. Yeah, that guy that is sleeping with, what did Rush Limbaugh call her, Fang or Fong or whatever. He is actually one of the managers in the trial. So China has a representative up there. It's crazy, man. But so they quoting here George Washington. It said, sparing no efforts or means whatever to get himself reelected, wrote the 9 House, led by Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland, quoting directly from the 1787 debate in Philadelphia. And Jamie Raskin goes on to say in this, if provoking an insurrectionary riot against a joint session of Congress after losing an election is not an impeachable offense, it's hard to imagine what would be. So I'm saying right now, please show evidence, because they don't plan to show really any evidence according to this. They plan to show videos of the riot, of course, and then videos of things that President Trump, I bet they won't play the video where he says actually that, go down there and peacefully and patriotically protest. I doubt they will actually play that. Now, Trump's people may play that, but they're going to, pick and choose, man. But provoking insurrectional riot. And let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I've said this before, but if I say it, it bears repeating. Feelings, no matter what they may be, aren't facts. You can't go and testify and say, well, I feel this way. It's got to be about facts. The Democrats always put feelings above facts, man. In Mr. Trump's own, this is back to this article, and this is crazy right here. In Mr. Trump's own shorter filing, specked with typos. So they have to mention that there's typos in this. Do you think if there were typos, and I'm not saying there were, there weren't, in the 80-page document, which I would be willing to bet that there probably are, they're never going to mention that. They're never going to, but with Trump, they try to nitpick everything. They're trying to belittle the man. They're trying to ghost the dude. And I don't know how effective it's going to be. I guarantee you a good chunk of the 75 million people that voted for Donald Trump, they know he's still around and they still love you. I mean, you don't get people literally chanting, "We love you," like they did to President Trump. Whatever president has ever had that. But they expect us just to go away. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. In Mr. Trump's own shorter filing, specked with typos and stripped of the former president's usual bombast, his lawyers flatly denied that he had incited the attack and repeatedly argued that the Senate lacks jurisdiction to try a former president. Absolutely true. They repeatedly urged an immediate dismissal of the single charge against him, incitement of insurrection. This thing should not even happen. They already know, barring some kind of miracle new evidence, which I don't think exists. Of course, they'll try to contrive it out of thin air. They'll do abracadabra with it. That this trial, Donald Trump is going to be acquitted. There's not enough. It takes 2/3 of the Senate to actually impeach a president, to convict him in that sense. But I like how they say typos, man. And I was talking to you about videos a minute ago. Let me tell you something. I was talking to my producer about this. You talk about like censorship. There's all kind of ways that this big tech stuff censors people. And one of them is what videos are available or how hard it is to find them. Last night on Hannity, I want to give him credit. I'm not going to be able to play the video, but last night on Hannity, he played this video of Uncle Joe, King Joe, talking about the coronavirus and vaccinations. And in this, and I went back and looked at parts of it, but I could not get a clean video. If Donald Trump makes a mistake or made a mistake, you would find that video you'd be Donald Trump, it would just pop up. And I bet you right now that 1,000 years from now, that Donald Trump videos will still pop up if they're negative, right? I have a way of going back and archiving things. I go back through, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about. I go back through my emails because I send in my show to my producer before I get here, and I label certain videos. And so I can go through my email and punch up that label, and that video will appear. I can't tell you how many of the links that I have to previous videos are no longer available. If it shows like Antifa or Black Lives Matter violence on YouTube, it's not available anymore. They've eliminated it. But if it's anything negative about Donald Trump, man, they have multiplied it. It's just crazy. But here's what Biden, and I'm kind of just paraphrasing, but this is what Biden said. Talk about typos. That dude, Joe Biden, King Joe, is a walking typo. Because this is what he said. He said in talking about the coronavirus that the federal government had ordered 300 billion, with a B, billion doses. 300 billion. I mean, I think, what are we going to, that's more, I think that's slightly more than the total population of the earth, right? 300 billion doses. No one said anything. And he corrected himself later. He didn't admit his mistake, but he was trying to say 300 million. Then he said, and check this out, that we have enough to vaccinate 300 people. 300 people. So they can't even vaccinate, according to him, the amount of people in my little old hometown. So is it 300 billion that you ordered, or just enough for 3 million? But, Biden will never be questioned about that, man. I mean, if you watch him, if you actually don't watch the news coverage because they edit it, man. But if you watch an actual live event with Joe Biden speaking from the White House, it's a disaster, totally. But they never say anything about it. Remember they got Donald Trump? They actually had a news story on Donald Trump about 2 scoops of ice cream versus 1. Really. I mean, that was like news for a long time. You could probably still pull that video up, I guarantee it. The lawyers, Bruce L. Castor Jr. and David Schoen wrote, this is Donald Trump's lawyers, wrote in their 14-page response to the charge, the Senate of the United States lacks jurisdiction over the 45th president because he holds no public office from which he can be removed. There is no office of the ex-president, rendering the article of impeachment moot and non-justable question. And that's true. It's absolutely what they're saying is true. They shouldn't have to write another word. It doesn't need to be 14 pages, 1 paragraph. This thing is unconstitutional, and everybody knows it. Chief Justice John Roberts, who is supposed to preside over impeachment, the Chief Justice is supposed to, he presided over the first one. And I'm no fan of John Roberts, but at least to his credit, he refused to do it. He said, I'm not showing up for it. And I don't blame him. And I'm wondering if this thing will ultimately end up before the Supreme Court at some point if they were to actually convict Donald Trump. I don't think that's going to happen, by the way. This is all about show, man. It's all about show. But it's just amazing. And everything, like I say, they only need that 1 paragraph is the total defense, really. But they'll do more. The other broad argument, talking about Donald Trump's argument from his lawyers, was that Mr. Trump's remarks, see, they say Mr. Trump. Why isn't it President Trump? Because when they made these remarks, it was President Trump. They're trying to ghost the man. But I think they're making a mistake because they keep referring to him as as Mr. Trump. Well, if he's Mr. Trump, Citizen Trump, he can't be impeached. It's against the Constitution. But it says here, the other broad argument that was that Mr. Trump's remarks on January 6th and in the weeks before were constitutionally protected. While they did not argue explicitly that Mr. Trump had won the 2020 election, as some said he wanted his legal team to do, the lawyers sought to shroud his false claims of widespread voter, and they almost had me on this, I caught myself, voter, I can't say the F word anymore, mod. So the article says something else, but I'm calling it mod. Widespread voter mod, almost did it again, in free speech arguments. Wow. So they're saying that Donald Trump was complaining about the election being, stop the squeal? I can't say that other word either. So you got to be careful what you say now, right? We'll be arrested. I'm still arrested right now. And people, and I tease about that, but there are people actually getting arrested now for their opinions. I mean, that is where we've come from. A young Florida guy, about 30 years old, got arrested for producing memes going back to the 2016 election. He's been arrested for that and is facing like 10 years in prison. Google it if you want to, but Google is of the devil, I'm just saying. But this idea that something Donald Trump did is extraordinary. And, of course, Ted Cruz can be accused of attempted murder by a sitting congresswoman, and there's no ramification. Talking about Ocasio-Cortez, they literally accused Ted Cruz of attempted murder from the House floor, nonetheless, and no ramifications there. Like I tell you, there's no double standard. There's only one standard. Donald Trump's held to it. People like me are held to it. Conservatives are held to it. What standard is the left held to? I can't find one. If you could show me a standard that the left is held to, it'll be a first. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I just can't find it, man. But think about this. You want to talk about double standards, then let's play this clip from 2004, 2005 on the Senate floor questioning voter mod in 2004 election. The very thing that they're wanting to put Cruz, they have put Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley. We talked about that on a podcast a couple days ago. Check that out again. Go to our YouTube channel, spell it out, John Mark Talks. We need more subscribers and views there, by the way, so please help us with that. But Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley are now being held under Senate ethics investigation, which is a secret deal, by the way. We talked about that in depth, say. For doing what they are allowed to do constitutionally. But yeah, and I'll show you this video. And of course, let me back up. Donald Trump, I've said this many, many times, but as I say, it bears repeating. Donald Trump, everything he does is supposed to be extraordinary. I'm not going to extraordinary, extraordinary. Never been done before. And a lot of it is true. But when it comes to a negative, they make it sound like, no one's ever done this. No one's ever challenged an election. The last three Republicans, including Donald Trump, that were elected to president got challenged during the day of the certification of the electoral votes in the joint session of Congress 3 times. 3 times. The last 3. And this was in 2004, and it'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Check it out.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the well-known and great state of Ohio seems to be regular, informed, and authentic. It appears therefrom that George W. Bush of the state of Texas received 20 votes for President. Dick Cheney of the state of Wyoming received 20 votes for Vice President.
For what purpose does the member from Ohio rise?
On the ground that they were not, under all circumstances, on regular conditions, and a signed objection, and I do that.
Has the senator signed the objection?
The senator has signed the objection.
An objection presented in writing and signed by both a representative and a senator complies with the law, Chapter 1 of Title 3, United States Code. The clerk will report the objection.
We, a member of the House of Representatives and a United States Senator, object to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Ohio on the ground that they were not, under all of the known circumstances, regularly given. Signed, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, state of Ohio. Barbara Boxer, state of California.
That's good enough. Do you I know the audio on that congresswoman there was a bit low, but what they're doing there is you had the congresswoman from Ohio and Senator Barbara Boxer from California, which is what you need, a House member and a Senate to sign, objecting to certifying the electoral votes. In other words, want to toss out the votes of Ohio that just happened to go to George Bush, right? And Dick Cheney presided over it. He is the president of the Senate as vice president. And he said he accepted them, and they broke up and they went through the deal. Just like what happened on January 6th. the insurrection, if you want to call it that, on January 6th, you know who it hurt? It hurt Donald Trump's cause and those that were supporting him. So if there were people who were Trump supporters that did that, then they're really foolish. I actually think that there's a case being made, and we may never hear it. It may come out in impeachment trial, depending on how long it lasts, that there were some other players that may have been involved in this that did not have President Trump's best interests at heart. It certainly didn't work out that way. But back to what I was saying about Donald Trump being extraordinary. So he challenges it, and it's like, the worst sin that's ever happened, the greatest threat to a democracy that's ever been, to the republic, to the Constitution. But Barbara Boxer and this senator, I think her name was Tubbs, or Congresswoman Tubbs, they do it, and it's no big deal. I mean, it's cool. I mean, there is no double standard, ladies and gentlemen. There is none. There's one standard for conservatives and none for the left. Tell me where they are. Back to the article. They effectively argued, talking about Donald Trump's lawyers, that Mr. Trump believed he won it by a landslide. I wonder whatever gave him that idea. That he got 10 million more votes, the most votes, 10 million more than 2016, the most votes in the history of an incumbent president, and he still lost. So I'm just saying that no mod involved. And therefore was within his First Amendment rights, talking about the president, now citizen Trump, express his belief that the election results were suspect. Wow. His claims could not be disproved. This is what the lawyers wrote. They added, because there was insufficient evidence. Insufficient evidence. So I looked up the word insufficient to make sure I understood the context. Not enough, inadequate. Now, I don't know if there was insufficient evidence. One thing we know for sure, there was insufficient investigation of the voter mod, for sure. And I always go back, all these other cases that I never really talk that much about them, because the one that just upsets me and disheartens me about the future of our country is the Texas case. And I keep showing that because Texas had the cojones to actually step forward. They sued, saying that the votes cast in many states were unconstitutional, and they were. They were. And Florida, the great state of Florida, signed off on, as well as about 20 some odd other states. And the Supreme Court, this is what they would not take up the case. They would not. They took the case up, but they wouldn't hear evidence, and they dismissed it. The one place where we had a chance to uncover this fraud, mod, back up. I don't say the F word. Can we edit that out? Mod was, your last resort to take your grievances, didn't even take up the case, which is their constitutional duty to do so. Because basically what the Texas case said, and they're absolutely correct. No one can tell me they weren't. Please make a case for me. Chime in where I'm wrong on this. Because the Constitution clearly says that the states, the only entity within states that can change election law in this presidential election is the state legislature. Not Stacey Abrams and consent decrees in Georgia. Not, violating the Constitution of Wisconsin. None of that kind of stuff. That is unconstitutional, and they all know it, but they would not take up the case, man. So thank God for Texas. The impeachment filings provided the clearest preview yet of the legal strategies that are likely to shape politically fraught impeachment trial of Mr. Trump. Again, Mr. Trump. His second in just over a year, that is scheduled to begin in earnest on Tuesday. Now, how long is this trial going to last? Now, it shouldn't even happen, but it should only last a day or two. But that's totally up to the Democrats. They are in charge of that, man. And I think it's going to be basically show versus dough. How much show do they want to put up there versus how quickly they want to get to spending your money, like this coronavirus agreement or whatever they're trying to hammer out. That's basically 2 trillion, 1.9. That's like gas being $1.99. We never see that again. 1.9 trillion. It's 2 trillion. I mean, let's just tell it like it is, man. So how long do they want to keep this show versus how quick they want to get to spending your money. It really comes down to which monarch that we want to support here, or the Democrats want. Do they want King Joe to get his way? Because all his appointments, confirmations are on hold until after this Senate trial is over with. And they're not going to get the coronavirus agreement one way or another till after it's over. So is it King Joe that holds sway, or is it Queen Pelosi? Because Queen Pelosi, you know, this puts her in a big time spotlight because she's getting it to Trump. She's putting it in him, you know, even after he's left the office. So is it King Joe or Queen Pelosi? That may have a lot to do with how long this trial is. Though senators have yet to agree to a final set of rules to govern the proceeding, both parties appear to share an interest in an exceedingly swift trial. We'll see. Without new witnesses or in fact finding. Republicans, it says here, are eager to turn the page on a divisive, they're talking about why it might be quicker, but Republicans are eager to turn a page on divisive former president, and Democrats are impatient to turn to advancing the agenda of the current one. Divisive former president. Now, that's the New York Times language, not mine. But let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the rats are circling right now. And I don't trust any of it. You look at the different colors. There's Republican rats, Democrat rats, independent rats. The rats in D.C., lobbyist rats, they are circling because they want to advance the agenda of the current one, right? Joe Biden, which is all about the swamp. That gurgling sound you hear, that smell that just kind of in the air, it is the swamp filling up and refilling, and the rats could not be happier. One thing that the Democrats and the Republicans, and I'm not all Republicans, but the majority of them, the Mitch McConnells of the world, they, especially these senators, they just want business as usual. They want to go along, get along, hey, you know, pat themselves on the back because they want the cash to flow and the wars to go. And I mean go as in going on and on and on and on. Did you see where Biden has now reneged on the promises Donald Trump made to, I think it's the United Arab Emirates, part of that, the Abraham Accords? He's not going to give them the jets that we promised to. Isn't it something now that not only do they want to ghost Donald Trump and wipe him away, but they want to return, they being Joe Biden, and the Democrat and Republicans seem to be right ready to go along with him. They want to get back in the good graces of Iran. I'm not, you know, I mean, my God, man, the people that literally wake up in the morning when you ask them, hey, good morning, hi, death to America. Those people that Biden wants to get back and let Iran be the major player. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Saudi Arabia should be the mayor, but that's the two risks right there. But if I had given a choice, I think I'd be better off with the Saudis than the Iranians. I know our great friend and ally Israel would rather deal with the Saudis than the Iranians, but you know, King Joe, man, that war machine got to keep going, man. War, what is it good for? Absolutely, ching-a-ling-a-ling, man. That's what it's good for. But here's the question I pose. What are we going to do about all this ridiculous BS? What are we going to do? Now, I'm not advocating that we do any kind of violent, I'm not even advocating a protest. But I've been telling you about the frog in the pot deal. And most of you know this story where, you know, if you put a frog in a pot and boiling water, they jump right out. But if you put it on simmer, they'll sit there and cook like they're in a sauna. Well, Donald Trump, because I always thought I was out, I didn't think I was in the pot. But Donald Trump, through his 4 years as president, and even candidate Trump, has let me know that I was in the pot in certain ways. And I am totally out of the pot now. I'm out of the pot, and I'm not getting back in it. And so I ask you, the patriots out there that care about this country, that don't want to give it over to Monarch King Joe and Queen Pelosi, that actually care about this nation, that really believe in George Washington, not just when it's convenient and the Constitution. What are we going to do? Because if we just get mad and just go back and be fat and happy, enjoying ourselves, which is what I usually like to do, then we're going to lose this nation. I'm not saying I'm not even telling you we're going to be able to save it. But I can tell you this. If we don't man the political ramparts, if we don't stay active, if we don't push, and I still believe take over the Republican Party, and we can get into that another day, but if we don't man the political ramparts, we're either going to lose this nation or we're going to have to man the real ones again. And I don't want to see that happen because that price has already been paid. We shouldn't have to pay it again, but we might if we want to save this country. And I hate to see that. All right, we only got a few minutes left, but it's just enough time, I think, to get into my governor, the governor, man, Ron DeSantis. I'm telling you, if you don't know about Ron DeSantis, you better ask someone, because this dude is not only the greatest governor maybe we've ever had, but in Florida, but certainly the greatest governor out there. And I like some other governors like Texas and you know, the Dakotas and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's other governors I like. But Ron DeSantis, man, he has risen to the top. This guy could be president one day, and I can tell you, I will support him when that time comes, if it's not Donald Trump. We'll say it, like this. But this is from a Breitbart article. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis launches ambitious crackdown on big tech. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced a major push to curb big tech's political bias and censorship, it says today, but it was yesterday, with measures including a ban on censorship of political candidates and mandatory opt-outs of content filters for citizens of the Sunshine State. So basically what he's saying is, in Florida, there's a new sheriff in town, and let me just tell you, I love this meme. My governor, man, I'll put my governor up against yours any day. I mean, because Ron, he has something of steel. Man, this dude has truck nuts. Let me just say it. He is out there, man, and I am with him. But he's got the bigger of any of them. I'll put it, that looks more like Ron DeSantis versus like Gavin Newsom or Andrew Cuomo, right? Good God help us with him. But one of the things he's doing here is he's putting big tech on notice. And it's pretty complex, but I'm just going to give you some of the highlights. He's basically saying that they got to give you notice before they censor you. They can't censor a candidate running for office, and they can't use their algorithms on you without your permission. That's what the opt-out of filters mean. And we know algorithm, man, he is the most powerful. And let me just say it, because I'm talking about Facebook, and I'm on Facebook. Algorithm is the most powerful person on the planet. And I am definitely going to get you some of them chocolate-covered cherries one day. But, man, I love our governor. In a 45-minute speech, the governor identified big tech companies as the leading threat to American democracy and the republic, I would put on there, and freedom of expression today, and pledged that Florida Republicans will take action. And I tell you, man, DeSantis, he is on the roll, because remember what he did about the riot. You know, we didn't have a lot of rioting in Florida. We had some that was over the course of the summer. You know, a lot of they tried it in Miami. It got squelched pretty good, because Ron DeSantis, man, he laid down the law, brother. I mean, he went all Wild Bill Hickok on them or whatever. He basically said, look, if you are bashing in somebody's business, he extended that stand your ground, that you can be shot. If you're out blocking a street, you can get run over. You know, people have a right to have their own business, protect their families and their business in Florida, and then we have a right to drive down the streets that we paid for, as bumpy as they may be, especially where I live. But Ron DeSantis, man, and now he's showing this, man. Now, so no wonder. I mean, you ever wonder why President Trump is moving to Florida? I mean, he owns properties all over. He's moving to Florida because he's bringing that with him. He's, you know, ball knows ball, so to speak. Trump is moving to Florida because he probably feels like a lot of people that the Sunshine State is the bastion of freedom. And man, I can't give enough kudos to Ron DeSantis. We only got a few minutes left. I'm going to go over a few of these things that he's proposing. If you want to see the full laundry list of them, go to this Breitbart article, and they go in depth about it. I talked about the mandatory opt-outs from big tech filters. That's the algorithm. And Breitbart said they've been advocating for that for several years now. A private right of action for Floridian citizens against tech companies that violate this condition. So you have a means to sue them. Believe me, when the lawyers get involved in suit, that gets people's attention, man. And see, this could have ramifications across the country and literally around the world if he is successful at doing this. Fines of $100,000 per day levied on tech companies that suspend candidates for elected office from Florida from their platforms. So you can't do that. Daily fines for any tech company that uses their content and user-related algorithms to suppress or prioritize the access of any content related to a political candidate or cause on the ballot. That, ladies and gentlemen, is huge. It's huge because that's basically what they did, like Facebook did, and YouTube and Google and everything else about, and Twitter especially, about the Washington Post, not the Washington Post, the New York Post. They never censored the Washington Post. The New York Post publishing a legit story, a fact-based story on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's connection to selling out influence to China and Ukraine and other places. And they were censored from that. So big tech actually influenced the election in a big way. It wasn't just voter mod. It was also intentional manipulation of the American public and public opinion. And that's what he's talking about. Greater transparency requirements here. I've only got about a minute left. Anyway, we'll just close with that. Check out this article. There's several of them, but Breitbart. Listen to, search out Ron DeSantis' press conference from yesterday, if you can find it, because they'll probably try to squelch that. It's very interesting. I'm proud to be a Floridian. I'm proud of our governor. Florida is on the move. You can certainly come here. Don't bring your politics with you. Spend a bunch of cash. We can need it. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to our YouTube channel. Check it out, especially if you want comments. John Martin Talks, and support our sponsors, those that are backing fighters like me. Look at our top of our show above the video, and it tells you again how to check that out. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great United States of America, because we don't need any kings and queens. We got rid of them a few centuries ago, and they won't need them to come back. But she deserves, Lady Liberty and the United States of America deserves our prayers. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.